There we go. Sorry about that, folks. We just got a reset update on our Streamlabs OBS here, and it reset literally everything. So I had no microphone for a second there. Man, second time it's happened. Hey, it's John with FNP Wargamers, and this is the FNP Evening Show. Now, I was not intending really to have an evening show. We kind of stopped doing that, and actually, I had started thinking that we needed to get back to doing our evening shows at least on Tuesday nights, at the very least, for our YouTube subscribers, all of our followers and fans that really kind of put us on the map and got us all started. But I ran into a bunch of technical difficulties. All the different options I have to stream over to YouTube with using OBS was not working. I couldn't get the graphics that I put together today for today's show, so I was not able to stream to that. So I apologize to everybody out there on YouTube. Now I'm going to get this uploaded to YouTube, so if you're hearing me talk about this and you're on YouTube right now, then I was successful in uploading it. So I hope you enjoy the show. So tonight, I just wanted to kind of talk about Warhammer 40,000 9th edition rumors. Just chat about it, bring up some information, a lot of salty stuff, some rumors, some roundabout facts, and at least get it presented out there. So it's not going to be a terribly long show, but I just want to at least get that information out there because we are about ready to start up the economy, so to speak. I mean, it never really shut down, but all of our businesses are about ready to start back up now that the cough 19 is not over, but we're going to at least try to tippy toe our way back into society. And Games Workshop and a number of our friendly local gaming stores are all going to start opening up soon. Especially here in Texas, I believe starting this weekend or May 1st, we're going to start opening up, at least here in Texas. I can't vouch for anywhere else, but the reason why I wanted to do this show about 9th edition rumors is because once the doors are open and we're able to get back out there into society, get the gaming going, and Games Workshop starts rolling out their product, this is really going to accelerate. We've had about a month and a half ish of nothing being released product wise. We've just had lots of rumors. We've seen previews. We've seen sneak peeks. We've chatted about it, but we're about ready to just get this mad rush of product. Now, Games Workshop, they were already very kind and said, hey guys, we're going to be opening up around May 1st, May 2nd. However, ... expect about a 2-week extra delay because they have to obey a whole bunch of social distancing and new work safety procedures at their warehouses, both in the UK and in the US. So that means production is going to slow down. And even at other stores, even at their stores that do open up, the Games Workshop stores and the Warhammer stores, it's all going to open back up, but slowly. You're not going to be rushing in there with 90 people in there. You might have just a limited amount of people that can be in there at a time. And so just be prepared for that. Just be prepared that you might show up to your favorite local gaming store and they might be like, look, we can have you guys in here shopping, but we can't have 100 of you in here. It's unsafe. It's unsanitary unsanitary in the sense of the cough that is going on right now. And at least here in Texas, some stores have already looked into, like Atomic Hobby Shop in Cyprus. They're going to have everybody be wearing the surgical masks. It sucks in a way, but you know what? We're keeping each other safe, and we get to go in there and game. And we're following the law. We're obeying the rules. So the point I'm trying to make is we are about ready to have the floodgates open, and this rush of news and rumors and leaks and information just slam into us. So we're going to talk about that tonight. I just put that graphic up there because we got some other ones going on, or not graphic, but the window there, little Google window. So 9th edition Warhammer 40,000. We have been expecting this. It's following Games Workshop's process of just putting out a new edition just to keep things fresh. Now, we're pretty sure that the rules are not going to change because this current rule set that they've got right now, it's a solid rule set. However, due to the past 3 years now, almost 3 years, we've had numerous updates, FAQs, errata, new books coming out, new codexes, new campaign books, everything overlaying each other. And so we've got not quite the issue we had with 7th edition with the rules bloat, but we do have a bloat of rules, and it's starting to become a little murky on what we're supposed to be using. Now, it's not that bad that, you know, we need flowcharts or anything, but there is a bit of confusion going on out there, especially in the tournament circuit, which is the minority of Warhammer 40,000 players. No matter what they might think, they're just a very vocal minority. Now, but the cool thing about the tournament players is they use and abuse the rules. And I mean abuse, and not in a illegal fashion, though it does happen, but in a fashion where they're trying to find the most efficient way to win a tournament, which is not a bad thing. You don't want to go and just kind of half-ass it and just hope that you win. No, you want to be efficient with the units. You want to be efficient with the different stratagems and the different warlord traits and everything. You want everything to lock into place, so when you sit down or stand there at the table, you know what your army is going to do, and it's going to execute this scenario to in the most efficient manner, so you can maximize your points and defeat your opponent. And it's because of them that we see a lot of these rule changes coming up, and so for good or bad, depending on how you look at it. Now, it's not to say that tournament players are the only ones that are finding these loopholes or finding these errors, or just finding that, hey, this is really cool idea that you guys came up with. However, it's a little unbalanced, or it's greatly unbalanced. So that's when we get the FAQs and the erratas and everything that come out. Well, we don't get the erratas because of that sort of thing. We get the FAQs for that. The erratas are just going, whoops, we made a mistake. We need to fix the way that this text reads. Here you go. So there's a difference there. And then, of course, we get tons of supplements like the Psychic Awakenings, the Vigilus books, so much that changes the nature of the game. New rules come out, like we had last year around springtime, the Shadowspear box that changed, had a variety of rules that were different from the Vigilus books for Chaos Space Marines, which was different from the rules for Chaos Space Marines in their own codex. So there was a lot of these changes that were happening. So this is why we're seeing likely the 9th edition coming out. That's why new editions do come out, because it helps revitalize the community, revitalize the game, and it cleans up a lot of this language. Now, I don't think, and I see it from a lot of other, I guess the best way to say, industry insiders or commentators, especially on YouTube, like Chapter Master Valraks, Kirioth, and a few others that I know in passing. If I see a video pop up, I'm like, oh, I like him, let's watch his video. But we're all pretty sure that, 9th edition's coming. Some of us might have some more information than the others. Some of us might have started putting clues together and have gotten to that same point. 9th edition is coming. Whether it's this year or next year, it's going to come. There's way too many indicators, and we're going to be getting into that. So with that being said, we're gonna pull up a couple of the first graphics here, but I just want to say that we don't think that this new edition it's going to be this massive revamp like we saw from 5th to 6th, really 7th. 6th and 7th are very close in comparison. But 5th to 7th, and then 7th to 8th edition with some dramatic changes, some very dramatic changes. We don't think it's going to happen. It's going to probably be a little bit more along lines of how Age of Sigmar, when it first came out, once they got past kind of the silliness without the point values, and they suffered through that backlash. But once they got those point values out there, that game was amazing, or is amazing. And then, but they got to a point where they've got all these books out, all these tomes, all these errata, FAQs. So it was time to not only create a new edition, but they going into a new direction of storytelling. So with Warhammer 40,000, up until near the end of 7th edition, we were stuck pretty much in the same date, within the same 1,000-year period. Sometimes the books would come out or worldwide events would come out and be at this date, and then the next one would be actually the past, and then the next one would be the future, and the other ones could be simultaneous. So I don't know how many different books came out for Armageddon besides Wars 1, 2, 3, how many times 3 was done, how many times we've done the 13th Black Crusade. So, you know, they that drawing that narrative out just kind of put the game into a rut. It was going nowhere. So near the end of 7th, going into 8th, they've pretty much shifted their gears, just like they did with Age of Sigmar, going from Warhammer Fantasy into this new direction where they can start pushing the narrative forward, start pushing the story forward so it can last for another generation. My generation growing up, and actually the generation after me, so I guess it'd be millennials, were pretty much stuck with the regular edition, I guess you can call it a regular storyline up to 7th edition. And then going into 8th edition starts that whole new storyline. So we've drawn a close on the Indomitus Crusade, which was 7th into 8th edition. And then now we're going into the Psychic Awakening, which in several of our opinions is a kind of like the prologue or epilogue for 8th edition, or prologue, or maybe a series of short stories waiting for your favorite novelist to do the next novel in the series. So if you're like I'm a fan of Butcher and his Dresden Files, so there might be a book of short stories coming out, and that's kind of what the Psychic Awakening is. It's adding in some more material, and it's telling the story in the background. It's a filler episode, if you will, or filler episodes, and then we're going to get into the next arc, and that's where this new edition is going to be. And it's some of us are thinking or looking at it's probably going to be a nice solid 3 to 5 years. Once that new edition comes out, this storyline is actually going to be pretty long and extended. It's not going to be shifting as rapidly as some of the Age of Sigmar. If you notice, they have different seasons with the different Chaos Gods since the before Soul Wars and then after Soul Wars. So we might be getting something similar. And this storytelling is great because it allows them to refresh the edition when they have a solid rule set, just like Age of Sigmar. They just cleaned up the language in the rule set, added in a few more new things, and then kept on keeping on. Keep on keeping on. I can't even think of the name of that movie. And so 8th edition is a really good rule set. Very good rule set. I mean, it's brought so many people that had left Warhammer 40,000 because of 6th or 7th edition, and it's brought them back into the fold, and it's brought in more people. It is now so popular, and it is bloated with new players, but bloated in a good way. You know, we want this type of player bloat, because that means our communities are massive, and we always have games and hobbyists to interact with. So it's awesome. So what are we doing now with this whole edition and this stuff going on, this whole rumors about 9th edition? I'm going to pull away, and I'm going to put up our first graphic. So I am not a expert in computer graphics or marketing, whatnot. So you'll have to please bear with me on this very kind of basic. Oops. Sorry about that. I was trying to make sure that we had live video. Yep, we're still good. Okay, so what you're seeing here is just first part 1 of 3 different images we're going to be chatting about. So some of the current theories is the first one, it's going kind of what we talked about. And this is a pretty solid theory that I wouldn't even say it's a theory. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that this is what's going to happen with this new edition. So theories might be the wrong terminology, but I wanted to get it up there. So cleanup bloated 8th edition rules. That includes the FAQs, the erratas, the conflicting information, say from a codex to a Psychic Awakening book, or to a campaign book such as Vigilus, or maybe any of the box sets that have come out. So that's kind of that cleanup. That's what we're going to see. Very, very likely, I'd say at like a 99.999% percent chance that that's what's going to be taking place. Now, what is going to catapult us into 9th edition, and 9th edition, please understand that is the rumor mill's working title. We have no idea if it'll be called 9th edition. We don't even know 100% if it will happen. It's just very likely, very, very likely it's going to happen. Now, will they call it 9th edition? We don't know. Will they call it Age of the Emperor, Age of Mankind? Who knows? But what we do know is that it will come. A new edition will come. Now, the fallout from the Psychic Awakening series, which now that we're going to be about a month and a half, maybe even 2 months behind, instead of being ready for July, is probably going to be pushed back to, we're probably going to wrap that up in August, maybe September. We'll see. Games Workshop has not indicated how they're going to get caught up on their releases. I don't suspect that they're going to go, okay, well, all of you friendly local game stores who have not been open for about a month and a couple weeks, we've had very little profit or opportunity to get any profit. Here's all the releases for the month of April and the last of March and the beginning of May, and you need to go ahead and get this all this week or next week. I think that they're just going to push everything back. That's the logical choice. Now, they might be stacking up and pushing some stuff back, but who knows? We're kind of waiting. At any rate, once Psychic Awakening is done, and we're going to be talking about that on part 3 here. Once that is done, that is going to lead us into the next chapter of Warhammer 40,000, and now I guess the 41st millennium, or is it now the 42nd millennium technically? It's hard to tell with the timelines. I think we're in the 42nd millennium, but it's still Warhammer 40,000. That's all that matters. And now the thing that we're trying to determine, and this is the hardest part, is are we going to have a grace period of whatever the fallout of the Psychic Awakening is? We're going to have a year of that, of speculation, and they're going to be putting out some more stories, probably what I'm going to call the Psychic Awakening indexes, which might be kind of like some art books, or just like a compilation of all the rules into one or two books. I don't know, but it might be, we might see some sort of index like that for Psychic Awakening. Now, this whatever's going to happen with this fallout, will it take about a year until about the summer or fall of 2021, or are they going to jump right into 9th edition in 2020? I don't know. There's a good argument for either side, especially now, excuse me, with the COVID-19, the cough-19. Can't say that word. Sorry, Google, please don't get rid of or ban the show or whatever it is you guys do. Now, I put up there, following the Age of Sigmar, or AOS, very successful narrative format. And that's what I was talking about earlier, is when Age of Sigmar came out, there were some bumps in the road, but then they got their General's Handbook, they got the point values out there, they had their Realm Wars or Realm Gate Wars, they had a very successful, eventual successful launch of Age of Sigmar, and it shot up in popularity. Then Soul Wars hit, and that's pushing the narrative forward, keeping that same rule set, just making some tweaks with the erratas and FAQs, patting it on the butt, and getting it out the door. So you've got that new, it's still the same rule set that Age of Sigmar is. It's just enhanced, tweaked, edited, if you will. And they pushed the story forward. And so we had those seasonal, I think right before Soul Wars and then after Soul Wars, we had those kind of seasons like this year was Nurgle. This next year was, or the year after that was, say, Tzeentch, so on and so forth. There was a focus on the different Chaos gods. Now, I'm not saying that's what we're going to see with Warhammer 40,000, but that's how they're pushing this narrative forward. So, like with 8th edition, the Indomitus Crusade was wave 1 of 8th edition. Psychic Awakening is the ending of 8th edition, which leads us into 9th edition. So they're using kind of this narrative format. A couple of the other theories, and this one is just like them cleaning up the rules bloat for 8th edition. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that we are going to see a return of a whole bunch of Primarchs. The top contenders is Fulgrim, Angron, Lehman Russ, and the Lionel Johnson for each of their chapters. And then there's talks of new foes coming out. We're going to be getting to that on part 2, but the new foes, there's some rumors out there, and one of them was, I got some information, I passed it on, and I made sure I stressed that it was a dirty rumor because we don't have a lot of proof. But hey, good morning or good evening. But we wanted to mention that there's a possibility of a new faction developing, a new threat to the universe that will affect everybody. That they're going to be against everybody, and everybody will be against them. Almost in the same, not necessarily in the same vein as the Tyranids are against everybody, and everybody's against the Tyranids, but kind of along that lines. Now, my leading theory, and a couple people share it, is that we actually might see the return of the old ones. That's a very weak one, it's very salty, but it is a possibility. What greater foe could the universe face than this force that essentially everything that is now the warp, it's because of the thing of what they did, millions of years ago, that right when they were fighting in the Necrontyr, that everything that the warp has become is because of their machinations. So, and then they fled into the warp. So we got all this psychic stuff happening. The warp is all psychic related. So there's a damn good chance that could be what we're going to get. Now, there has not been a lot of indicators, though, with the Psychic Awakening stories saying it's going to be the old one. So that's why we're going to say it's nice and weak, a little salty. In fact, we don't have a whole lot of information of what's actually going on with the Psychic Awakening. We know that there is some grand plan, but if you read the books, even the little snippets on their Warhammer community page, we're not actually getting a cohesive story. We just know that everybody's fighting everybody. There's psychic stuff happening in the background. New heroes, old heroes, things are popping up, and it's like the Psychic Awakening is not a story itself. It is just, as I was talking in the beginning about in between two different novels, you might get a anthology of short stories, and that's what Psychic Awakening seems to be. And then we're probably going to lead into some big Psychic Awakening campaign like Vigilus, and that's what's going to lead us into the next edition. We'll see. We will see. It's essentially like in the same sense that Soul Wars. Now, as I said, it could release this year. I'm really caught between both, not because of how the COF-19 has happened, but because I think we might see it next year, because I think they're going to want to me, from a storytelling standpoint, and kind of the direction we're seeing them going with their new products and new way of thinking and dealing with the business, is they're trying to tell that story. And they really haven't told us this Psychic Awakening story, so they could just dive straight into it and give us a hard reset into a new edition, like bam, you guys did not expect this because nobody expects the Inquisition, but here is the new edition, Age of the Emperor, I don't know, and all that Psychic Awakening that you guys were dealing with, well, here's what it all actually meant. Now, mind you, our writing was really bad, and did not give you any indicators that this is happening. But here you go. That could happen. I guess I should say I'm really hopeful that they're going to use between now and next year, 2021, they're going to use this time to tell or basically prep us for this new edition. And then, of course, there's the theory that it's not going to happen. But that's actually, I think that's just people trolling. But I wanted to put that up there. That, I mean, with Games Workshop, they do this. Yeah, I can see that, sir, or Fricky, Mr. F. Yeah, I can see Freaky. Ah, gosh, darn it. Yeah, as a Horus Heresy player, I'm slowly losing hope about 8th edition. For those of you who can't see this on YouTube, when I do get this up on YouTube, Freaky M is saying that and being left dead last is Necrons, and that's for the Psychic Awakening. They're they are the last faction. So I kind of agree with you in that regards. 8th edition, I think it's on its last leg. Not necessarily as it's had its day. I think it's just kind of in our new consumer era. It's like, well, you know what? I've had this new phone from this name brand company for a year, and they just came out with 2 new versions in the past 6 months. So that must mean I got to move on. That's kind of the way I look at them going with 8th edition. It's like, it's old. I mean, it came out like 2.5 years ago. It's old. It's useless now. That we're moving on. We're like maybe 5th edition into 6 kind of made sense. It was about 5 or 6 years. I think 6 or 7 years before they came out with the new edition. And then, of course, 7th edition needed to die. Sorry, Noms Cloud. We had some technical difficulties getting it up on YouTube, so I had to put it up on Twitch. So I apologize, man. I try to get it out there on Facebook to give notifications. I'm right now just kind of crafting theories. We're on part 1 of this with some of the graphics. So I want to talk about some interesting facts. So we do see coming in a lot of times, and I did this on a video a few days ago. We see shipping labels come in to the ports like San Francisco from China, or into the UK, or from the UK to here, whatnot. But usually it's from China here. And we saw that Artron art books, they're the ones that right out of China, I want to say near Beijing, if I remember correctly, that they make the codexes, battle tomes, rule books, all that jazz. They sent over 2 shipments, and shipment number 1 was approximately 39,000 pieces, around 57,000 pounds, or that might have been 52,000. I might have got that number typed up there wrong. And then the second shipment of approximately 12,000 pieces, but this was 2 different. This one, shipment number 2, is 2 different product codes. So we have 3 different product codes with about 50,000 pieces approximately, and weighing in at about 70 some odd thousand. Almost 80,000 pounds. And we kind of did the math the other day. I think that was Monday's show, where we figured out that it could be codexes, or we're actually not codexes, but we're thinking that it might be a variety of indexes. Now, normally these shipping labels will have a value attached to, or a name attached to it. Like we just saw recently in the past few months, War of the Spider was one, but we didn't have approximate weights of that. It was on a different type of shipping label. We had the Saga of the Beast, and what's the other one? Goodness, I already forgot the other one. Pariah. So we already saw those. That was a different type of shipping label. So we knew that those were coming, and we just recently saw that Road to Thramas, which is a Horus Heresy book, has been shipped to the U.S., which is an oddity. That is a major oddity, because about 2011, I want to say sometime in 2011, Yeah, book 9. Um, book 9 is shipped. Yeah, exactly, Freaky. So yeah, surprise. So what's interesting about that is that Games Workshop has not been sending or selling, with the exception of their Citadel Cafe in Dallas, Texas. They have not been having Forge World product in their stores. They stopped that around 2011 when I started working there. Then I'd say late 2011, early 2012, that was it. They cut it off. So the ninth edition book, or not ninth edition, but book 9 has arrived, and it's we didn't see the quantities, so that could very well be going to their, actually very likely it's going to their Memphis facility, and then probably they'll get some copies out there at their Citadel Cafe. So pay attention, Freaky. Once you see that comes up online, I don't know if you're in Texas, but if you are, you can reach out to Games Workshop, the Citadel store. Oh, Finland. Oh, you're a bit far away. But you know what? You're closer to UK, so you might. I don't know. Yeah, quite far from Texas. Darn it, man. I was gonna try to hook you up right there. Well, it's still good news as a Heresy player. Oh, very nice. Oh, then you are, man. I'll tell you what, Freaky. If you're building a First Legion army, you are right at this. What a great time, because you're about ready to get the Road to Thramas and your Primarch. Oh, so excited for you. But I'm kind of getting a little detracted here. So another little fact that has popped up is if people are not very familiar with Frontline Gaming, they've got their hands in Games Workshop pocket, and I think Games Workshop kind of has their arms wrapped around them. They do a lot of hugging and, bro parties and all that kind of stuff. Let's real quick. Freaky is saying that his buddy is doing a big Night Lords army for Horus Heresy. That is definitely going to be a party. Those are definitely two rivals. So Frontline Gaming, they're in GW's pocket and vice versa, in a very limited fashion, mind you, from all accounts. Now, they just put up an article the other day, which the timing is very suspect, and it was talking about 9th edition. Now, it could just be a coincidence. It could just be them trying to capitalize on the talk out there, but it was a very well written article, and it didn't reveal anything, and it did its best to, at the end, go, if 9th edition was coming out. But if you read the article, it really kind of explains why it makes sense that 9th edition is on its way and whatnot. It's a very good article. But this is a little bit more information that helps kind of solidify that 9th edition is coming out, because it's not something that they would probably speculate on, since they do have a number of people that are play testers for Games Workshop, and that they work hand in hand, especially for the Las Vegas Open. So it's, for me, I'm not going conspiracy theory, with the chemtrails in the sky, or the lizard people that live at the center of the earth, or anything like that. But when you have a company, an organization like Frontline Gaming, starting to talk about 9th edition at a time when historically Games Workshop would start talking about a new edition late spring for a mid-summer release, or even early fall release, it is highly suspect. And we know that Psychic Awakening, this massive event that has been happening, that is going to shake the pillars of heaven and really turn Warhammer 40,000 universe on its head, is coming to an end very soon. So I think going into number 3, number 4 there, under some interesting facts, I think that it is right around the corner. This is why we have a chance of seeing it in the fall of this year. We've gotten some solid rumors that the Talons of the Emperor was going to be coming, and it came out to be true, and that they are going to be the first book, first of the new codexes of the new edition. But technically, the new edition already has a codex and codex supplements in the form of Space Marines. So take that into consideration. I've also put up there this is a weak one, but the Primarch Deathmatch. I put that up there because I feel like this was another well-placed segment for them to get Primarchs and the whole story in line for two reasons. One that Freaky will enjoy, and one for everybody else. If you get Primarchs front and center, like, I don't know, the Lionel Johnson being the winner of the Loyalist and Horus being the winner of the, well, we don't care about Horus. He's dead. But Lionel Johnson being the winner of all the Loyalists fighting against each other. That the timing of these Primarch death matches, yeah, they're great filler stories, but it also could be getting it fresh in our mind for the return of the Primarchs in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Also, last year, Games Workshop had made essentially a pretty major announcement that within about a year and a half, which would be about springtime of 2021, that almost everybody is going to be playing Horus Heresy. Or there's going to be a resurgence of Horus Heresy players. I don't know what that means. None of us knows what that means, but we know that they're back on track on getting product out there. And now here's that thing that we was talking about earlier under current theories, that once you get to a rules bloat point where you have everything's done, you've got to revitalize your product. You've got to revitalize those books so you can move forward and continue making money off of that. How do you do that? You do a new edition. But first, they've got to complete the entire storyline. So a year and a half to 2 years from last year, that if that is their timeline of getting the rest of the books done for the Horus Heresy miniature game, that mainly has most of the models locked in with Forge World, then we're going to see something pretty major next year. And the reason why I'm thinking that 9th edition could come out this year is two big major pushes like that for two major games, Horus Heresy being a fantastic, amazing game. I wish I wouldn't have sold off my 3 different armies, but you know what? It's probably time to start a new one. You know how, those of you out there know how I love to paint Space Marines. So I guess it's time to start a Horus Heresy army again. I don't know who I'll choose, but it'll be fun. Probably a Black Shield, to be honest with you. I've been very interested in the Black Shield, especially there's a character out there. I'm going to butcher his name, but I believe it's Edrin Har, the Riven Hound. I love that character so much. I am probably going to make a Black Shield army. I think I just talked myself into it. But point is, I think we are going to see that doing these 2 editions, 2 new or 2 revitalizations of the different systems, that we are going to see them at the same time is a very limited chance, because 2 big pushes like that is really hard on the community, really hard on even Games Workshop production budget or production values. So if they stagger the 2, so let's say 9th edition this year, boom, we just got a lot of money, guys, because people are just thrown at us for all the 9th edition stuff. And hey, next year we got a bigger budget now, guys and gals, going into late spring, early summer of 2021, which is late spring around the end of May is the end of their fiscal year. Start of it is in June. That, hey, we got this big influx of money. We can put all that money forward to promoting Horus Heresy and get those in stores, kind of like what Freaky M has been saying about maybe the new plastic starters, or moving a lot of their production stuff to the plastic starters. So cross our fingers. Number 6 on some interesting facts on this part 1 here, about ready to switch images, is the new store vinyls and standees. We saw that there was a massive shipment coming into the U.S. of new store vinyls, like the window placards and vinyls and stuff that they put up in there, and some new standees. Now, as far as we know, the local stores do not have those yet, which makes sense. That they're just probably sitting at the warehouse now, because we usually see those coming in months in advance, like 4 to 6 months, get up their stock levels. So that's a very good indication that a major event is going to happen in addition. So I doubt it's going to be Age of Sigmar because they're still writing out Soul Wars, which came out 2 years ago. Ninth edition is very likely. Horus Heresy, probably not yet. We don't have enough, and right now ninth edition is the biggest culprit here. So those are some extra facts. So graphic number 2. Some more ninth edition rumors here. Okay, so the projected changes that we've talked about, and I would like to go ahead and put a shout out at least. Some of this information I got from Chapter Master Valraks on Bolter and Chainsword, and he also has his own YouTube channel. I'll put the name here in the description. I don't have his YouTube. I don't have a link for his YouTube, but you can at least take a look at it and Google him. If you happen to go onto YouTube and you happen to go on his page, like it and subscribe it on YouTube, just if you don't mind giving us a shout out saying, hey, FNP Wargamers told us about you, we came on over, and if we can get some cross promotion, that'd be great. If not, at least hook him up with a like and subscribe because he puts out some quality content. At any rate, before I get into projected changes, I see Freaky's put some information there. Also, the timing. Yes, the Siege of Terra books will likely hit their finale next year, probably early 2021, and I'm assuming, Freaky, that you're talking about the novels, which I think that they've been waiting for the novels to be done so they can start the last couple books for the Horus Heresy miniature game, because they don't want to give away information that's in the novels by putting out the books first. It's like doing a Marvel comic book and that has all the leaks and spoilers, and then here comes the Marvel movie. So hey, awesome. Well, that's awesome. That's fine, KD9. You can be negative, man. We don't mind. Just keep in mind, if you're too negative, I might ignore you. But I don't mean to be rude. It's just we don't want any really bad negativity here. So getting back to projected changes. So we're looking at those adjusted keywords, because right now the keywords, it's almost, they started out nice and then they had to get adjusted, and the new stuff came out and they got adjusted, and we rinsed and repeated, and now it's a little convoluted. It's not necessarily difficult to understand, but the keywords for all the different units it needs to be cleaned up. So that's probably one of the changes that we're going to see. Also, the rules are going to be cleaned up, but they're going to stay largely the same. That's number 2 there. So there's going to be some rules adjustments. We might see some adjustments to flyers, as Kirioth, I believe, not Kirioth, but Chapter Master Valraks. Like I said, make sure you go over to his YouTube channel, give him a like, subscribe, tell him that we sent you over. Not that I get a kickback or anything, but probably see some changes with that, and of course we'll probably see some revamp of detachments. We'll get to that in a second. Lots of talk about the endless psychic powers. It makes sense because it sold so well for Age of Sigmar, and it creates a very interesting dynamic to the game. Essentially a random, even though you buy it for your army, there's a random element to the game. And it's a really cool thing that could help propel the game forward by introducing this new game mechanic that really disrupts that game mechanic really disrupts how you or how people were playing, say, Age of Sigmar. So imagine we're playing Warhammer 40,000, and you guys probably know about the tournament players and how really into it they are. And they've got it down to a wire. They know how to be efficient. They know how to do everything. Imagine them adding this new element to the game that really turns the tables and really throws the meta, which has been in a very major state of flux since 8th edition rolled out. And now you're really shaking things up. And as Freaky said, AOS has the initiative role. He can place an endless spell in a good spot. You can make the opponent forego a double turn. There's a lot of stuff that could happen. Now, there's we've seen some debates, and I should have put that up there, about the initiative rule. Would that work for Warhammer 40,000 or would it not? It's debatable. There's good arguments either side. I'm not going to get into that. But it could. That's another one of those adjusted rules or additional rules that could really shake up the meta and add a new dynamic to the game. Really turn things on their head. So it's really exciting thinking about this and actually chatting about it. Number 4 on there. This is the one that is gaining a lot of traction in the rumor market or the rumor mill, and I think there's a little bit of credibility there, especially after seeing how well Age of Sigmar works for Age of Sigmar. Is a revamp. Let me back up here. In Age of Sigmar, they have a lot of terrain pieces, usually an army-specific terrain piece, and it provides a bonus. We've all seen them, and I'm not going to try to pronounce the name. I can try the Fecaloid Gnarlwood, basically the poop tree for Nurgle. The throne, the charred throne or whatever for the Carrion Empire. And anyway, so they've got all these different. Almost every faction, or I think every faction, does have some sort of terrain piece. And we've been seeing those terrain pieces in Warhammer 40,000, but not to the same extent. One thing that Warhammer 40,000 sales have been lacking in across every market is the selling of their terrain. There's just not a lot of use for the terrain, especially since you have to take a separate detachment to include it. Now, if you were to revamp your detachment, say a battalion and a brigade, just those two, to allow the inclusion of a single fortification, not a fortification network, but a single fortification, and start putting those fortifications in codexes, you'll see a dramatic shift in people including them. Like Freaky said, like the Sisters, they just got theirs in the book. A lot of the most recent armies have been getting those terrain pieces in their books, in their codexes, instead of in the main rule book or in the indexes. So there's this is one of the projected changes, that we're going to see a revamp of how you bring in terrain, because it's a wasted material, it's wasted money, or a dead product. That's a better rule. It's a dead product. And how can you really enhance the game and sell tons of product? By tweaking a few rules in the main rule book, about detachments, and selling that, giving incentive to bring that terrain, like they did with Age of Sigmar. Now it's like almost every Age of Sigmar army has that one piece of terrain. So that's something to think about. Now, going on number 5 here. So new types of indexes. It's kind of possible. Now, we talked about that just a moment ago, and I'm going to just quickly flash back over to part 1. Those 2 shipments there over under some interesting facts. Shipment 1 of about 39,000 pieces, and shipment 2 of 12,000 pieces. We know that codexes usually arrive in around 10,000 quantity, which could match up with shipment number 2, except shipment number 2 there is actually 2 different products, and shipment number 1 is a single product. And these are approximate numbers, by the way. It's like 38,000 and 11,000 and some change. So coming back is that these could be one of 2 things. 3 new codex or new indexes come out, just like we did with the beginning of 8th edition, to get everybody up to snuff for their new wave of codexes coming through. Now, this is very unlikely, in my personal opinion. I think we're done with indexes, and they're just going to start rolling out the codexes, and we'll get into that in a moment. Could actually be, I talked about this the other day, the release of the Forge World indexes. We knew that Games Workshop rules writers, were actually taking over the Warhammer 40,000 rules from Forge World. That way Forge World can concentrate on their specialty games and Horus Heresy, while the rules team can actually deal with all the Warhammer related rules for the product that transitions over. This could make sense, as currently there are 4 books out right now that are indexes for Forge World. So one of those books could be a combination book. So say the Forces of the Astra Militarum and the the Forces of the Adeptus Astartes, the Space Marines, could be one book. That 39,000. We had to double or triple our numbers because that's the most prominent armies out there that people are playing. And then another one of those other books could be the Xenos books, and the other one could be the Chaos books. So there's a pretty good indication that we've got those books are indexes that are coming. Reason why I don't think it another possibility is that one of those books, or maybe even both, or those shipments, is the massive shipment of a core rulebook for 9th edition. It's weak, but it is possible. Given those quantities, we haven't seen those quantities since 8th edition dropped. So, I don't know. It is possible. I just want to present this information to you guys. Now, going on to number 6 of the projected changes is one of the things that Games Workshop has done quite well is the dual codex, for them, the dual battle tome release alongside these battle boxes of 2 different armies. We started seeing that last year, and we normally see this with, kind of a starter box like Soul Wars or Dark Imperium. But we started seeing this last year with the Loon Curse, which was the Gloomspite Gitz and the Sylvaneth. Both of those got some new books and stuff out, new models, new everything. But they also had a starter box, and the timing was you got at least one of those battle tomes came out at that time, or maybe both. I can't remember. And then before that, we had the Carrion Empire. I believe it's called Carrion Empire, where we got the brand new battle tome for the Skaven and for the what do you call them? The Vampire Counts or Kings or whatever. I think they're just actually called the Carrion Empire now, or I'm not sure what the name is. I apologize for that part. I should have made a note of that. But we saw that release. So they got a big box set with a couple new models in it. Flesh Eater Courts, thank you. So okay, awesome. Carrion Empire was the box set. Flesh Eater Courts was one of the armies. So we saw those battle tomes come out with terrain and endless spells. And they both, in that box set, they also got some special characters. Same thing with Loon Curse. And then at the end of last year, we received the Feast of Bones, which was the brand new army, the Osiarch Bone Reapers, which also got their battle tome, War Scroll cards, terrain piece, and I don't think they got endless spells. They might have got endless spells. And then the Ogre Kingdoms, the Maw Tribes, the Ogres, got their new model, got their new book, War Scroll cards, and they got a terrain piece. So that was very successful, like sold out successful. They sold out so fast on those boxes and those books. It was incredible. It was a cash cow for Games Workshop. And then 4 to 6 months later, they just turn around and go, hey guys, those special characters that were in that box only, here you go. You can buy them separately now for like $40. Really, really smart marketing. And that's why it's very possible that with that success, that after 9th edition rolls out this year, or we might just see it this year, that we might see the speed up of codex releases. We know that once the entire wave of 8th edition codexes was out, they already talked about this around the beginning of 8th edition, that once they got all the books out, that they were going to be redoing the codexes to only include all their new miniatures. And that's why we've seen stuff that went to Warhammer Legends. So we're going to be seeing these new codexes rolling out, and what's a better way to speed up the production instead of every other month or one a month? But you can do that by doing the dual codex release, dual data card, and have a box set with both armies, a little splattering of the models that for those armies, some troop choices, maybe a big creature thing, and then some special characters that you can only get in that box at least for about 4 to 6 months. And they can do that almost every month or even every other month and just start cranking that out. And then within a year, all 24 factions will have their books, will have their codexes. We won't have to wait 3 years for everybody to get their codexes. I think this is what we're going to see. I'm hoping so. I think it worked very well for Age of Sigmar. So those dual codex release alongside those box sets make a lot of sense financially, and with a lot of the the edition rumors. Now, we haven't heard a lot of chat about that. That's my own speculation. So you heard it here first. Actually, you probably heard me talk about it many times over the past couple months, but I just wanted to bring that back up. Now, there are a couple salty rumors, and actually one of these salty rumors actually ended up being legit. New faction or sub-factions. We know that one new sub-faction is coming, Agents of Bile. Yay! So our leaked source was great. It was the same leaked source that told us that there was going to be that Adeptus Custodes and the Sisters of Silence were going to be joining into one book. And we're going to start off with a Psychic Awakening book, but they're going to be under the same banner of Talons of the Emperor. So, kudos to that source. I've now moved that source up to about a 75% rating. I still keeping that rating a little low because even though the information is accurate, it's not 100% accurate. And I believe it's because of where that source is getting their information, it could be detrimental if they give me too much. So another faction, these two factions that I put up here, the 1 to 2 factions, is that new faction of possibly the old ones or a new race. This basically a psychic army that could be coming out. This is a very strong possibility. If it's not the old ones, it could be something very similar. We saw a whole planet of humans become conduits for the power or the light of the Emperor and destroy the Tyranids and do all sorts of crazy stuff. And then, of course, the Inquisition comes in and F's things up, but we're not going to get into that. So that's possible 2 factions, maybe even a sub-faction, who knows? But there's definitely a possibility of a psychic army coming. So the next one is the Blackstone Fortress tie-in. This is a weak one, but it still has validity. We've seen a lot of new type of factions and new models start popping up. Sorry about that. New factions and stuff pop up in Blackstone Fortress, and there's a lot of talk that those renegade militia that we saw in there and those renegade the Chaos Cultists are going to be the new template. At least the renegade guard are going to become the new template for the Chaos Cultists, and which comes back to our point number 1 about a new faction. There was another new faction about a renegades and cultist book coming out, and the renegades that you can get in Blackstone Fortress are the new standard that's going to be reboxed and coming out, and we'll probably see an initial the initial release being tied in with those actual models from Blackstone Fortress, and then a multi-part plastic kit coming on later. Kind of help tie in a little bit of making that a little bit more valid is that Games Workshop has removed from their trade stocks with the friendly local gaming stores or FLGSs, they've removed the Chaos Cultist box as a standard to be up there. It is going to be now you still might see them in your store, but they're not a part of the restock anymore. They're not part of the stock level. And there some talk that the actual Warhammer and Games Workshop stores have actually pulled them as well, or at least some of them. So that's a good indicator that something is changing for the cultists. And it most likely has to do with those Black Fortress renegades and cultists, but who knows? This next one, we're about ready to wrap up part 2, and I'm going to get to part 3 here real quick. Number 3 here, Return of Epic. I put this up there because I had at least do my due diligence and talk about it, but I've talked about this many times before. The chances of the full Epic game coming back is, I'm going to say 99% not going to happen. Games Workshop stopped the production, and this is when I started working at Games Workshop. They stopped doing Epic because they got to a production level where they can make all their models and they can produce those large kits now, like the Land Raiders, the Titans, everything. So they can make more money essentially they can make more money off of people playing Epic, but on a regular Warhammer 40,000 scale, that regular 28 millimeter or now really kind of 32 millimeter scale. So the chances of epic, yes, I know that they brought back Aeronautica Imperialis, just transferred it from Forge World over to GW, and they brought in Titanicus from back in the day, but those are not indicators that epic is coming. It does not make there's not a value in doing epic. They'll actually lose money if they bring back epic on the scale that they did before. Fulgrim as a hero character, this is a very salty one that's popped up for 9th edition, that his clone that got kidnapped or taken by Trazyn, the Necron dude, that I think that's his name, the Collector, at the end of the Fabius Bile book, or somewhere on, I think it was the Fabius Bile book. Basically, he took the good clone of Fulgrim, not the demon Primarch, but a solid good clone of Fulgrim. And there's whispers that he could be coming back as a hero, as returning back to his loyal roots, because it wasn't that he was a traitor himself, but his body was possessed by a demon, as many people know. So was he really a traitor, or was that the demon taking over? And if I remember correctly, they had this whole oh gosh, what's the guy that had his picture in a painting? It's a classic English story. The guy never dies, never ages. Dorian Gray. Thank you, Freaky. I appreciate that. If I remember correctly, that's what happened to Fulgrim. Oh, he was far gone. Okay, never mind. Far before he's possessed. Darn. There was talks though that this clone was a good guy clone, and that he might actually come back as a hero for the Imperium. Is it going to happen? I don't know, but I wanted to put that up there. Like I said, due diligence. The other one was the Emperor was going to return, which is a pretty good, solid rumor. There's some short stories or little snippets in some of the Psychic Awakening books that led a little bit of credibility to that. But once again, we don't know for sure. But I wanted to include that. It certainly would make for an interesting change in the story and the dynamic. Because we saw Sigmar is running around in Age of Sigmar, so it very well could be come back. We'll get him eventually. That's true. It's true. So, like I said, those are salty rumors. So I want to leave off with some stuff about Psychic Awakening. Let's get this up here. I had somebody ask me about what kind of tie in all the Psychic Awakening stuff, and I already forgot the name of the characters. I should have wrote it down. Might be a little hard to see on the graphic, but here in the center, moving from center to left, we've got the new Inquisitor. She's the one that started the whole Psychic Awakening story, ladies and gentlemen. She's the one that started talking about it, and she had shared a little bit of information with the person on her left, or to the right of her on the picture, is that Harlequin that is running around with Ethereal Stern, the Sisters of Battle. That's to her right or left in the picture. These three characters in the center are all interconnected, and it's very interesting to see that these characters that are trying to essentially bring the whole Psychic Awakening they're the ones that kind of started the entire story. They're the ones that are ending the story, and this is why it's a pretty good chance that Pariah is the final book in the Psychic Awakening saga, as these are the ones that open or at least the Harlequin and the Inquisitor are the ones that opened the story, and they're the ones that are likely going to be closing it. Now, up and to the left of these characters, you'll see a number 2 here, and I had to zoom in and check it out, but we have Adeptus Custodes. And up on the shelf next to them, by the Psychic Awakening title, we have the Sisters of Battle. Coming back over next to the Harlequin, we have the Imperial Knight. I just put that there to identify them. We have the Ultramarines, which not a big surprise that they're always front and center. But back here, you see this Maltese cross. That Maltese cross is usually identified with the Black Templar. who happened to be in that very first preview story that we got, that very first video last October, I believe it was, might have been end of September, early October, was in the background of that fleet that the Inquisitor was essentially leading. So we're going to get, this is kind of wrapping up this entire story, what this is going to involve, and why it's pretty much everybody against Necrons. Well, this is kind of leading back into that whole 9th edition thing. What was the thing that, who were the Necrons fighting before they went and they sided with the Satan? I might even be pronouncing that wrong, but I apologize. Partly the Satan, the Star Gods or whatever, and became the soulless entities and stuff. Who were they fighting but the Old Ones? The Old Ones were these were the creators of the Orcs, creators of the Eldar, and creators of a couple other races that nobody really ended up caring about. And I can't remember if they created humans. I don't remember, but they're also the ones that effed up the warp by creating these races and using, doing all these horrible things to fight the Necrontyr, which ended up creating, basically giving birth to the Chaos Gods. Orcs, Jakaro, Eldar, thank you. Squats will rise again. Reset the clock, just like the plastic Thunderhawk. Reset the clock. But at the end of the day, it's very telling with just this simple little picture here that we are seeing the end of that story. Very likely. We don't have 100% proof, but it's very likely this is the end of the Psychic Awakening. This whole image right here has a very final stand, a final face-off against whatever is about to happen. And the green glow, very good indicator of the Necron. And as I said, who could the big bad be psychic-wise? Necron are not known for their psychic potential. They're actually known for the opposite. They actually kidnap psychic or nulls to become pariah. So very unlikely that the big bad going into the new edition or whatever's going to be awakening is the Necron. That this might be whatever the Necron are doing might help trigger whatever's going to happen. So this final battle that's got the Inquisition, Harlequins, who, like I said, started the whole Psychic Awakening story, the return of a character that has never technically had statistics or attributes or anything or for the game, but she did have a miniature way back in the day. We had a video a couple weeks ago or about a week ago that showed off Ephariel Stern, the Heretic Saint's original model. So now we've got her in this story, which is really cool. She's a very powerful psychic, very powerful Sisters of Battle psychic, which is unheard of. But she's on the side of good. And we know that she has some dealings also with the Yanari about a book or two ago. I think it might have been in Ritual of the Dam. I think she was mentioned. That's when she was first mentioned. And then, or maybe the second time she was mentioned. And then, of course, the Sisters of Battle and the Custodes and the Space Marines. And I don't care about the Imperial Knights. I know some people like them, but it doesn't really fit. It's kind of an odd thing to toss in there in the background, but whatever. What's interesting is that Imperial Knight looks like almost like a Forge World one. I don't think it is. I think that's a thermal cannon, but it has the Serratus, the kind of a profile. At any rate, this final stand that looks like they're about ready to that they're going to have. This is the last book, and it's the big battle that's going to trigger whatever is going to wake up, which could very well be the Old Ones or a new race, or new races, new factions. I don't know. And like I said, this whole episode tonight, this whole live show is about the various rumors going on, and I just wanted to make sure that we talked about it. So I see a bunch of people had joined late, and oh my gosh, it's been an hour and 10 minutes, about 30 minutes longer than I wanted to do, but there's so much to cover. So I'm hoping you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'm interested. Awesome. Hey, Variable, how you doing? Hey, awesome. I appreciate that, Freaky, for following. Normally my face is up there, but I really needed to show these graphics because there's so much information, and I'm hoping some people will do some screenshots and then they can weigh in on this next Monday. I wanted to, or next Tuesday, I want to rehash because usually I get some leaks, sneaks, and bleeps and sort of things on Fridays, and since Games Workshop is about ready to roll back out, I think maybe this weekend, and more likely to be the following weekend, that's when I'm going to start getting a little bit more leaks. So I'm going to be watching those shipping labels coming in at the ports. I'm going to be paying attention to a few other sources I don't want to mention because it could out them or out that, and I could get in trouble by doing that. So anyways, I'm going to do a little bit more research and see if any of this is going to pay off. Some of that information is just, oh man, I'm super excited. To know that book 9 is getting ready to be shipped, yes, that should put a smile on everybody's face. What Freaky's talking about, everybody, is book 9 is about ready to drop for Horus Heresy, Road to Thramas. Now, do keep in mind, Freaky, that usually when we see that, it's about a month and a half to it's about, I'd like to say 2 to 3 months before it hits shelves. So, I mean, within 2 months. So we just saw that, I want to say near the beginning of April. So probably May, June, you're probably going to see the book. So I'm happy for you, especially since you're starting a First Legion army. That's the Dark Angels, for those that are unfamiliar with the Horus Heresy or the original Legion, which chapters were actually the legions. The Dark Angels were the First Legion, and they're going to have a whole bunch of rules updates in the Road to Thramas, Book 9 of the Horus Heresy, and they're about ready to get their Primarch. Oh man, that model is so gorgeous. I'm so jealous. So jealous. So we covered a lot, guys, but I need to shut down for the night. I've been talking for way too long, and my throat is starting to dry up here. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Thank you for following. Thank you for liking. Make sure you head over to our Facebook page. If you are on Facebook, you can find us under FNP Wargamers. That's usually where you'll see an update saying, hey, we're going to be doing a show. We do a Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning show at 10 a.m. Central Time here in the U.S., and then I get it up on, it's in our video library here on Twitch, and then I try to get it up onto YouTube, our YouTube channel as well. So head over there for a like and subscribe. YouTube has been being a little difficult lately, so some of our videos have been killed, mainly because I mentioned the certain medical pandemic that's going on. I used its actual terminology, and for some reason YouTube did not like that, so they yanked the videos. So I've got to call it the cough, or I can come up with a variety of other names. Anyways, I'm going to get going. I've got a lot of painting for me. I've got 2 weeks to paint close to 100 miniatures for 2 different painting commissions. So, and I need something to drink. You guys have a wonderful evening. I really appreciate it. Variable, you can go back and watch the video once it sets or it's done streaming. You'll be able to go watch it, and you can actually kind of fast forward. And just if you want to get a condensed version, the cliff notes, you can look at the 3 different graphics that I put up. So sorry about that. I really did try, ladies and gentlemen. I really did try to get it up on YouTube, and the 2 methods to do it were just not working. And so we had to kill the YouTube feed and just run it on Twitch. So I will talk to you guys. Well, I'll talk to you all tomorrow morning for our morning show. Y'all have a wonderful evening. Be safe. Wash your hands. Cover your mouths. Do the social distancing. And I will see you tomorrow morning. Have a good night, or a good morning, depending on where you are.